Here's a quick review of inputs and outputs. When you're looking at a table, your X values are going to be your inputs. Oftentimes those are on the left side of a table, or if your table is going left to right, it's going to be on the top row. The Y values are going to be your outputs. Again, it's usually on the right side of a table, or if your table is going left to right, it's going to be on the bottom row. Your inputs, remember, are the independent variable. You can remember that because they have in going on both of those words. And your outputs are your dependent variable. So those terms are going to be used interchangeably. When you're looking at the graph, your x-axis is going to have your inputs or your independent variable. And notice that that matches up with what's going on in your table. And your y-axis is going to have your outputs or your dependent variable. So notice now in my graph, if I go to talk about one certain point, this coordinate point would be 2, 6, and we see that in my table there as well, with 2 being the input and 6 being the output. And going back to how we started at the beginning of the unit with input-output diagrams, here's an example down here. X is my input, and I then use the rule. So I plug in a number for X. In this case, I would multiply that by 2 and then add 2, and I get my output. As an equation, this would look like Y equals 2X plus 2. And so if I plug in one of the inputs I already used, let's say 2, I use 2 as an input, I would have 2 times 2 plus 2. That's a lot of 2's, I know, but that would get me 6. As an equation, I would plug in 2 for X, and 2 times 2 is 4, plus 2 is 6, so my Y equals 6. So we see that same input of 2 showing up in lots of different ways and giving us that output of 6 each time.